What's up, guys? Welcome into a Week 4 edition of Chargers Weekly. Alongside the voice of the Chargers, Matt Money Smith, Chris Hayre here with you. We got quite the matchup on Monday Night Football. The 3-0 Raiders, 2-1 Chargers. Coming up a bit later, the voice of Monday Night Football, Steve Levy, going to join us. We'll also be joined by NFL Network's Omar Ruiz. But I'm going to start with the voice of the Chargers. Buddy,
no, you're not.
Gotta...
Chris, you're not starting with the voice of the Chargers. We didn't have a pod last week. Going into the Chiefs game, I'm not able to carry this thing solo. Why did we miss the pod last week? For people that don't know, Chris, let's let everybody know.
All right. The twin girls came, and they came.
There we go.
A few days early. They came the morning of the Cowboys game. So, buddy, I had my suit out. I was ready to go to SoFi Stadium. Girls had other plans. 3 in the morning, right. Isla and Ava came. So it's been an amazing week. It was fun to watch that Chiefs game on the couch with them and seeing probably one of the best regular season wins since 2018. So, but no,
pretty good first game. No, we're not moving on yet. Pretty good first game for our 2 new Charger fans. So congratulations to the Hayres. Everybody loves you, Chris. We're so happy for you and the family and the new addition. And hey, we need as many Charger fans as we can get. And we just got 2 more added to the bunch. So congratulations to you, the wife, and the family.
I appreciate you, man. This is a girl dad podcast now, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I got 3, you got 2. There we go. We got a starting O-line.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, buddy. Now we're moving on. We're moving on
Yes.
to Arrowhead. I need to get your thoughts and just kind of set the scene for us, man. What was it like? Because 2018, I remember I was there that 29-28 game where it was complete chaos at the end.
Thursday
Mike Williams
nighter,
showed out. Thursday nighter. Can you compare it to that? Very rarely do fans at Arrowhead go home stunned, yet alone in September. They came home or went home rather stunned.
No doubt. It was very similar, very exciting in the booth with DJ. And I'll tell you, the excitement started as soon as we landed, and we kind of we got into a conversation with Coach, and Coach Staley's he's there's something, he's got a presence to him. When you're in his presence, you just kind of he exudes confidence. It's not arrogance, it's just confidence. And he doesn't speak in like an authoritative manner. It's very matter of fact. And kind of when we were talking to him, he said, hey, look, I feel like with this team, with the Chiefs, it's not about individual talent on defense. It's truly about team. You really have to play them as a team. And I feel like with the week of practice we've had, we've got a really good plan. Like, I feel like we've got a really good plan for the team. And I feel good about it. He's like, I hope it works. He goes, I feel like it's going to work. And man, guys, I'm anxious to see it. I really am, because I feel like we got something. And sure enough, we saw what that plan was, right? Do not let Patrick Mahomes get on the run. You have got to bottle him in from the outsides, contain, and if he is going to break, and this is what I thought was the most fascinating part of that plan, is if you are going to let him get outside the pocket, only left. And DJ pointed that out. He's like, if you ever look at the explosive plays, they're all when he's able to extend to the right. And certainly that's something that Ronaldo Hill and Staley and his whole staff saw. And anytime he was on the move, they always forced him left. And you had 2 passes of 20 plus or more, both to Travis Kelce, 1 for 23, 1 for 28. I mean, they executed that plan to perfection.
4 takeaways. I asked Coach Staley about this, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I've never seen a game where you win the turnover differential 4-0. Your quarterback has a 125 passer rating, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and still it comes down to the last seconds of a game. I mean, have you ever seen that? I think it's just a testament to who the Chiefs are, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, it was great to see the Chargers kind of overcome what has plagued them in the first 2 weeks. And that is moving the ball and not cashing it in, So they get that first turnover and they're not able to do anything with it. And then they get the second turnover and they cash it in for 7. So I think that is kind of what started things to go well for the Chargers. And like you said, they scored 14 in the third. And that's a reminder of what the Chiefs are able to do. But I think the key was, and the reason why, I mean, look, this is a Chiefs team that came back from 24-0 to lead 28-24 at the half in a playoff game, right? So you know that's they're capable of doing that. And I think, what basically they did is they forced the Chiefs to play the Chargers and they forced them to play the clock, because those drives are 10 plays, 12 plays, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and they just didn't have enough time. But that also means the Chargers don't have as much time, right? So their possessions are going to be limited, because you're totally fine with the Chiefs' drive being extended. And I think that speaks to why it was, came down to a Hail Mary at the end, because you're totally fine not having as many possessions, because that means the Chiefs don't have as many possessions. And like I said, I think it was a very detailed plan that was executed perfectly. And even though it came down to a Hail Mary at the end, that's still exactly the way they wanted this thing to play out. Limit possessions, have multiple plays, and create opportunities for turnovers instead of these 3-4 play, 75-yard, 90-second drives that just crush teams when they play Kansas City.
Buddy, I thought of you when Mike Williams had the 2-point conversion in the first half, right, and then the touchdown at the end. It was reminiscent of your call in 2018. 122 receiving yards, a career high for Mike. I think he set a career high in catches in week 1. He's playing at an elite level right now. When you have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both playing at that level, entering week 4, they are top 10 in targets, receptions, and receiving yards. How different is this offense, especially with Justin Herbert at the controls, when number 81 is playing as well as number 13?
I'll tell you, I think it's a testament. I think there's 2 things there, right? One, so happy for Mike. He's got a 5th-year option that was picked up, so he's making a bunch of money this year, but he didn't get his extension. And then on top of that, it's a contract year. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Now, of course, Chargers can franchise him, but hey, what a great opportunity for Mike to finally realize the potential that Tom Telesco and his staff saw when they selected him number 7 overall after dominating college football and helping Clemson and Deshaun Watson to a national championship. This is the Mike Williams that they drafted. And I think it just took an offense and a coach, I should say coaches, Coach Beatty and Coach Lombardi and Coach Staley to unlock it. They knew it was in there. And Mike was just waiting for the opportunities. Man, that quick slant he had, like there's a couple passes in there, right? In the game that I remember, as we're kind of calling the game, and it was just like, man, that's the okie doke right there. He's been running all these 9s, and then all of a sudden, foot in the ground, boom, quick slant, and he is gone. And then he set him up. It was almost like a sluggo, but it was almost a double move. I think it was the pass that preceded the touchdown. And that set up his just quick adjustment and out, and that 20-yard touchdown throw. Like Mike is, and again, I think he's reminding people that he is a full service wide receiver. He is not just a big dude that's going to win 50-50 balls, send him down the field. And that's what he was his first 4 years. So I think it's great to see you've got Keenan on that 4th and 4. Everybody knows it's going to him, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. Like, that's so fun, nope. Right? But Mike is now, that second touchdown that sealed the game. Everybody knew that was coming. He's one-on-one out there, and it's like they're inside the 5. It's one-on-one, and Mike is lined up on the numbers left. You know what this is. Good luck stopping it. And, he just gets that big body into a defensive back and flips that head, and here comes your fade, and it's a touchdown. And it's so fun to have 2 weapons like that where the other team might know what's coming, and they can't do anything about it.
Joe Lombardi tried to tell us too that ex-receiver. He said, I'd bet some big numbers from Mike Williams, and we're already seeing it through the first 3 weeks. And I tell you this too, Money, the offensive line held up. Austin Eckler over 100 total yards and a touchdown. They've got this little formula going with their 2 elite playmakers on the outside, a running back like Austin Eckler. You're not having to run the football. I think there was 8 rushes between Justin Jackson and Larry Roundtree. And hey, there may come a time, maybe when you're playing the Cleveland Browns here in a couple of weeks, where you may have to establish a running game to kind of keep up with them, so you don't lose time of possession. But
I always, and look, I think coach sets the tone for this. So I'll say it. He's like, look, win or lose, you got to tell the truth. And if there's one thing, I really don't want to bang on the Chargers for anything, but you got to tell the truth in what you see. And if there's one thing that I still feel like they got to get right is they keep running to the right side of the line. And it's just, they're bringing in Trey and they're putting him next to Storm, and they're not going anywhere. And it's like, man, if you look at the left side of that line, Slater and Matt Filer are cleaning dudes out. Like, I don't even care if the defense knows it's coming. Run left, man. Just run left, because it ain't there on the right. It's there on the left. And for whatever reason, it seemed like they just kept going to that right side and it kept getting blown up. So that would be my only knock, speaking, because the offensive, I thought Storm did a much better job this week protecting than he did, though. He had a rough go against Dallas, and I thought he held his own, quite well against Kansas City.
Defensively, you get 4 turnovers. Asante Samuel Jr. just announced Rookie of the Month, Defensive Rookie of the Month. And buddy, actually, we have this thing, picks for Popeyes. Every Chargers game this season, when the Chargers defense gets an INT, you show your game recap email to your local Popeyes. You get a free chicken sandwich when you purchase a chicken sandwich at regular menu price. Asante may have Chargers fans eating all fall long, man. It was pretty impressive to see what he did against Dallas and then at Kansas City. And I tell you this, Tavonne Campbell, he was kind of the unsung hero of that first half. You forced 2 fumbles. His development under Ansley and Hill and Staley, we saw flashes of it last year, Money, with the pick 6 against the Jets. And they talked about Tavonne having a pretty good camp, and we're kind of seeing the fruits of that.
Well, with Tavonne, remember when we were talking about this roster in the preseason in 53, we had mentioned, you got Brandon, you've got Kamon Hall, and you got Tavonne Campbell, and they all do things differently, and everybody said, number one, Tavonne is the best looking. Like, he looks like exactly what you want in a corner. He is physical. He's 6 foot. He's 200 pounds.
Former rugby guy, buddy.
Exactly. And he's tough. And remember, he's playing because Chris Harris was out. And everybody's like, oh, man, of all the games to have Chris Harris out, you need that, you're going to be in nickel. You're probably going to be in a lot of dime. And for him to be the guy that steps in for Chris Harris and just use that physicality, like you said, a rugby guy, a big body, and man, he put it on him. And it was great. Michael Davis to be right on this. And look, Michael Davis had a fantastic game. He had one that got by him, but outside of that, talking about Tyreek Hill for 50 yards. Right. And remember, and if you go through, these Chargers Chiefs matchups, Tyreek's never had a big game against the Bolts. He's never gone for more than 100 yards. He had the explosive play last year that led to the victory in week 2. But outside of that, man, Mike Davis kept him in check. Tavonne Campbell was just a menace out there forcing turnovers. And just going back to your Asante Samuel point on that play, 2 things. What are you doing, Mahomes? Like, what are you doing? Matt Kemp's wide open. Marcus Kemp is wide open in the middle of the field, and he's a young tight end that has not caught a lot of balls. You're no-looking him when he's got no one around him for 5 yards. Like, that's where it gets you. It's cool. It's fun to see it on SportsCenter, but it bit him in the ass there, and that was not an easy interception. I mean, my gosh.
Dude, he laid out for that one.
To get that thing. That was Mookie Betts, in center field, laying out to snatch a fly ball. So that was a beautiful play, and Asante earned it. He certainly earned Defensive Rookie of the Month. No doubt about it.
We push it forward to Monday Night Money. This game is fun. 3-0 Raiders. And listen, they've played 3 pretty good opponents. I know Brissett was the quarterback under center for the Dolphins, but he played pretty decent last Sunday. You beat the Ravens week 1. You go on the road. You beat the Steelers. We'll see what the Steelers are moving forward. But this is a game where Derek Carr leads the NFL in passing over 1,200 yards. He's been spreading the football around. I think 4 receivers have over 200 yards receiving. And the defense is held up to this point. But Justin Herbert versus that Raiders defense, I mean, between
Gus is doing great. Gus is doing a great job with that bunch. When you think about how bad they've been with a good offense, and the defense has just been terrible. The secondary's been terrible. The pass rush has been terrible. And Gus has got them playing great, and I hate saying anything good about the Raiders. It hurts me. It pains me inside. But, love Gus. And man, he is doing an awesome job. DJ shared this with me, so I'm just going to take it from him. He was digging through all the Amazon Next Gen stats, and they have get off, and they're able to run through their algorithms, get off. And the Raiders have the best get off, Ngakoue and Crosby. And when you go through and you see like the second best, and it's Clowney and Myles Garrett, and like that's a legit stat. So it's not a fluke. It is. Those guys are exploding off the ball, and they're creating a lot of issues. The thing that so look, one of those guys is going to be lined up opposite Storm. So, that's what they'll have to figure out, and hope that he holds up again like he did against Chris Jones, because they weren't even messing with Rashawn Slater in Kansas City. They're like, whatever, just put Chris Jones over on Storm Norton, count Slater as a loss, and I'm going to count whether it's Max Crosby or Ngakoue. Slater, I feel confident that he's going to hold his own based on what we've seen through 3 weeks. So it's going to come down to that other side and how they account for, what is, again, probably the best pass rush duo it's hard to believe we're saying that, in the NFL through 3 weeks. But that's what they've looked like. Now, conversely, man, I can't wait to see Joey Bosa against Alex Leatherwood. Oh, man, this is going to be fun.
Joey can't wait either, I'm sure.
It is going to be fun to watch that, because, they're going to have to chip. They're going to have to do something, and they're going to have to shade protection that way, because, I've been a big critic of Derek Carr. I have always said, and I've taken some incoming for it. I said, I believe a lot of those numbers are empty, because if you look, the points aren't attached to the yards and the completions. And it's because he's always taking the check down, and he's not paying attention to situational football, down and distance. So much of it is just, I got to get rid of the ball because he doesn't like to get hit. And man, he's standing in there this season, and he's taking shots, and he's pushing the ball downfield, and he's always been a good quarterback, but that's always been the one thing that's missing. And this year it's there. I mean, he is taking shots when he's delivering the ball downfield, and they've got talented pass catchers. So to me, this is a much different and a much better Raiders team than we've seen in the past. And I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
DJ and I just did a film room with Ruggs and Carr, and to your point with getting the ball down the field, we didn't see that with Henry Ruggs last year. All of a sudden, we're seeing 61-yard touchdowns, and it's not just Ruggs, right? It's not just Waller. It's Hunter Renfrow. It's Brian Edwards, the kid from South Carolina, who's getting in the mix. And then I have to go back to defense real quick, because you got Milo. You got Gus Bradley. You got Richard Smith. You got Roger Tieber. You got Darius Philon. You got Davian Square. And I didn't mention Casey Hayward Jr. and Denzel Perryman, who I believe he may be leading them in tackles.
He is.
This is Chargers in Vegas. If it's already Raiders week, right? If there wasn't enough storylines, you have all these guys who were with the Chargers a year ago coming to SoFi Stadium. Just adds a little bit more buzz, buddy.
No doubt. And look, it's two guys that know each other very, very well. Herbert practiced against that defense every day, and Gus practiced against Herbert and that offense every day. There is a lot of familiarity with what their tendencies are, and it's going to be exciting to see which gets the better of the other. All of their games have been close. You go back to last year, right? It's an overtime win, and it's a loss when Donald Parham and Mike Williams weren't able to control the football to the ground, which could have been a second Chargers win. And instead it was a Raiders win, and they split. So these games have always been close. 2 years ago, it was the Josh Jacobs breaking through and getting that run and the interception at the end of it to end it. So these are always single score games. I don't think there's any reason to believe it's going to be any different. I feel great about what Justin Herbert's doing. Like you said, Austin Eckler, his first 100 yards from scrimmage game. Thank God Derwin James came back out of that tunnel with that shoulder sleeve on and was able to get back, because that's a big one. And I think that's going to be a big one, because, no rest for the weary. You go from Travis Kelce to Darren Waller. And that's what was fun about that Chiefs game, just to go back to it for a second, is there was a lot of Derwin playing high. We've seen him move all around, but for the most part in that game, they were playing, split safeties, and it was he and Nas up top, making sure nothing got by him. And if you go back and watch the game, it is incredible to see how fast he closes. He may start high, but the second he diagnoses, he is at his spot in the blink of an eye, and he's coming with vengeance and fury. And it's just, you forget, because, you'll see him a lot at the line of scrimmage and control someone, and the quarterback won't even look their direction because Derwin's coverage is so good, or he's already knocked him off their route. But when you see him high and you see him close and making those plays, man, it's a lot of fun to be reminded of what Derwin's capable of. And I'm anxious to see how they deploy him this week, knowing, how much Derek Carr likes to lean on Darren Waller, although he has not done it nearly as much this year as he has in years past. But to be able to take that away, if that's the plan, I think it's going to be fun to watch that again.
And we're still waiting for that one Derwin splash play. He almost had one in Washington. Derek Carr's been pretty good at protecting the football. I think they gave up a pick six.
Had a pick six last week. It was a bad pass too. It was one of those, like, what the hell was he looking at?
Yeah. But outside of Derwin, how about this real quick? I'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Drew Tranquill and Nas Adderley, the way they played. And, we didn't see a lot of Drew the first 2 weeks. Yeah. He was certainly a spark against the Chiefs. And then Nas, that hit on Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the goal line, man. We're starting to see that Nas Adderley that the Chargers drafted a couple years ago.
I'll start with Drew. Going back to the Cowboys game, I don't remember how many snaps he played. It might have been 8 or something like that. And I came out of watching, after watching that game back, saying, what's going on? Like, what am I missing? He's the best linebacker out there. Like, how quick he is to diagnose, how quick he is to run, fill, tackle sound, coverage is great. And it's clear that, I don't know what the heck I'm looking at, but the coaches do. And they saw the same thing. And they were like, we got to get Drew out there for more snaps. And look, you got Kaiser White, you got Kenneth Murray. They're super talented guys, and you assume they're going to make plays. Kenneth just had a rough go against the Cowboys. And I think that, combined with how good Drew looked on those limited snaps, opened the door for him. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having depth, and keeping those guys as fresh as possible. If Kenneth is playing fewer snaps and Kaiser's playing fewer snaps because Drew's playing more, that's a good thing. That there's nothing wrong with that. So, and I think we're going to see more of that. And I think Drew's going to continue. And I was happy to hear the way Coach Staley explained it when he talked, because everybody saw it. Everyone saw how good Drew was in that game. And, I think it speaks to why the players like him so much. And he said, that's on me. It's inexcusable that I have not had him out there for more snaps after seeing what he's able to do. That's a bad, I don't remember exactly what his words were, but that's essentially what he said. He goes, look, bad on me for not getting that guy out there more, because he certainly earned it. And you see how good he is. So not a lot of coaches do that. And I think that's how you get to have guys that buy into you, even though you're probably a little upset that you're not getting the playing time you want. And I've got to believe Drew was, because of how good he played. He had a special teams play that was awesome against the Washington football team. And then he comes back and just gets a handful of snaps against Dallas. They're all awesome. He's got to be frustrated. So I think to go out there and perform and then hear coach say that, is a testament to probably why the players we hear like him as much as they do.
Yeah, no question about it. And, seeing Nas perform at the level that he performed at against Kansas City, he's getting more comfortable in this defense. And, we've been waiting for a couple of years too, buddy, to see Derwin and Nas together in that secondary. And I think that as each week goes by, you see more confidence out of 24. And I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does against the Raiders in prime time in a big spot. And, you beat the Chiefs. It's a huge win. It's the first AFC West win starting 1-0, I guess, since 2014. But it doesn't mean much if you don't carry it over and beat the Raiders too. So can these younger guys particularly kind of show up in a big spot on Monday night?
Well, I mean, there's no reason to believe they won't. You look at the Dallas loss, and it was self-inflicted wounds, right? It's bad turnovers in the red zone. One where Keenan fell, one where Trevon Diggs just made an awesome play to get that pick. And I think now that we saw what the Chiefs did, against prolific offenses, people were talking about, oh, you got gashed for 198 yards in the run game. Well, it looks like, that's maybe part of the plan is they're fine giving up, these 7, 8, 12-yard runs in, with the hopes that you have more and more opportunities to create turnovers and force mistakes when you have explosive offenses like the Cowboys, who just put a 40 burger on the Eagles and put 29 on the Bucks. And even though they piled up all those yards, they scored 20, and the last 3 were a 56-yard field goal. The Chiefs, who were averaging 35, get out with 24, even though they put up over 400 yards of total offense. So I think, it's still a small sample size, but I think it's a reminder that, stats don't tell everything. That this very well could be by design. We believe we have a defense. I'm just assuming the idea is it's a defense that can create turnovers. It's a defense that can buckle down in the red zone. So we're fine giving you these little chunks that make you feel good about yourself. But, when it's nut cutting time and you're inside that 20, that go up. And I think that's something that's important to remember, that this very well could be by design. And I think maybe that's sort of where Nas is feeling a little more confident and comfortable, with a little bit more of a plan, an exact, precise plan. It's tough, when you're playing cover 3, just to make a long answer longer, Chris, when you're playing cover 3, you're just kind of out there, you're picking the grass, you're hanging out, you have one assignment, don't let anything get over your head. And you're just not involved as much with the way playing quarters and split safeties, the way that Staley does. You'll see like Nas is involved in everything. There's a lot of, where he's set pre-snap isn't where he is the second that ball goes into motion. He's moving around a lot. And like you said, he's making plays and run fills. He's picking up guys in coverage. It's not just a create a shell and stay there as a last line of defense. And I think that helps a lot. You get that guy involved more, and now he's a little more tuned in and locked in, and he's making plays like he did against Kansas City.
And to your earlier point, man, there's something about Coach Staley. He's matter of fact, but he explains the why. And I think that's what's really cool. I think Austin Eckler was on Pat McAfee's show just talking about how he's telling us this is how it's going to be. Now it's our job to go execute it. And the Chargers have certainly done that for the most part through the first 3 weeks.
No doubt.
We're going to dive into this Raiders matchup. The voice of Monday Night Football, Steve Levy, going to join me and Money a bit later. But first, a conversation with Omar Ruiz of NFL Network, Money's colleague over near SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. And before we get to Omar, Pepsi, they're passing out the ultimate Chargers fan experience only at 7-Eleven. Rush in, scan the code to enter for a chance to win some awesome prizes. Bolt up with Pepsi. No purchase necessary. Must be 18 years or older. Sponsor PepsiCo. For official rules, visit boltupla.com/7-Eleven. All right, here's my conversation with.
Wait.
Go ahead.
Before you get to it, I want to say this because we love Pepsi. Bolt fans support Pepsi because it's the Pepsi Rookie of the Year, the Pepsi Rookie of the Week, the Pepsi Rookie of the Month. So Pepsi's been really good to the Chargers, to Justin Herbert, now to Asante Samuel. So let's reciprocate, right?
We got to reciprocate because I think the Chargers have a monopoly on all these awards, right? Whether it's Rashawn Slater, whether it's Asante Samuel, which it's Justin Herbert as the rookie of the. I guess how many times did he win it last year? Like 10 times?
All of them. How many were there? 16? I think he won 17. So go on it. And by the way, my favorite, Diet Cherry Pepsi. I know it makes me sound like a 13-year-old boy, but Diet Cherry Pepsi is my Pepsi of choice that I like to crack every now and then. So, hey, reciprocate all that love that Pepsi's given us.
Add that one to the list. All right, let's bring him in. Omar Ruiz, NFL Network, joins me. Friend of the show, always a blast when Omar's on. And we got a big one on Monday night. Omar, I know you're a big part of it with NFL Network's coverage. Going to be a good one at SoFi.
Hey, Chris. First of all, great to be on with you. Always a pleasure to see you, and congratulations on joining fatherhood and the girl dad community. Couldn't be more happy for you and your wife.
I appreciate
look forward to seeing you in person on Monday. Look forward to seeing the fans in person on Monday. It'll be a first for me. Andrew Hawkins, Adam Rank, and myself will have the post-game show on NFL Network, but we're going to be inside the stadium, at least for that first half. And, obviously the Raiders fans always travel well. Chargers fans, incredibly passionate. And from everything that I've heard so far this year, that bowl atmosphere at SoFi Stadium is providing some sort of amplified, fan environment. The impact on the game has been incredible. So I can't wait to witness that for myself. And as you mentioned, this not only going to be a great atmosphere, but, for the first time in what seems to be a long time, the Chargers and Raiders matchup meaning a lot in the AFC West standings, and not only in the AFC West, but perhaps when you talk about the big picture and the playoffs, and I know we're still, technically September, early October here, this may, pay dividends towards January and playoff seedings and everything like that. And for us to talk about, the Raiders and Chargers in that way, I think is thrilling as well.
Good starts for both teams. 3-0 for the Raiders. Chargers coming off a huge win, Omar, at Arrowhead, 30-24. This matchup, I look at the quarterbacks. Derek Carr leads the NFL in passing yards entering week 4 with over 1,200. Justin Herbert, I think you're reigning Air Player of the Week in Kansas City to go 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think it was 281 yards. Pretty impressive performance, outdueling Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think both of these teams' early season performances really capturing the intention of the entire NFL. I think Derek Carr, what he's been doing to light up the stat sheet, as you mentioned, coming up with clutch performances, couple overtime wins there at Allegiant Stadium, and winning in dramatic fashion the way they have, really taking control of that game in Pittsburgh and never letting up on the road like that. And then the Chargers go in Arrowhead, which has not been uncommon for them, but for Justin Herbert, probably the most hostile environment to his NFL career early on, and to outduel Patrick Mahomes like that has been impressive. It's been fun to watch. And I think you got to credit both teams' defenses, really. I think, when you look at Patrick Mahomes, a lot of the game on Sunday, I was shaking my head, just uncharacteristic mistakes that he was making, miscommunications. And I think you have to credit Brandon Staley for putting together a game plan on defense for the Chargers that for the most part seemed to confuse Patrick Mahomes, because otherwise you can't explain those mistakes. Those are very uncharacteristic of Patrick Mahomes. And then the Raiders, in the same sense, credit to their defense, Bradley, new defensive coordinator, Derek Carr, and that offense, you knew they were going to put up numbers. John Gruden and Carr, 4th year together. They know each other like the back of their hand now. Derek Carr operating that offense at a high level, getting those young receivers to step up. But it's that defense that is making that offense relevant. And for them to step up the way they have, sets up this showdown on Monday night, and really been a big reason why both of these teams have surged to seemingly the top of the pecking order in the NFL.
No, I was just talking to Money about this, that extra sizzle to this game. Gus Bradley, Denzel Perryman, Casey Hayward Jr., Phylon, Square, Roger Teamer, Coach Milo, Coach Smith. There's so many former Chargers on the other side. So you mentioned the Chargers defense forcing 4 turnovers. That's big. But that chess match between Justin Herbert and this offense versus a lot of familiar faces on the other side, that's that extra little buzz to this one on Monday night.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome matchup. And I can't wait to see all the pregame meetings and excitement with Gus Bradley reuniting with a lot of his guys and a lot of those, current Raiders, former Chargers, kind of mixing it up. And, obviously so much familiarity when division teams match up with each other. But, obviously intimate knowledge, with these two teams and given the recent histories there. But then there's also a lot of fascination because, this is, Brandon Staley's first year, Gus Bradley's, first year with the Raiders. And so they are still developing their styles, their schemes. I think they are still evolving with how they're going to operate. But yeah, that's one of the more fascinating matchups to watch is that Justin Herbert and Mike Williams, can they continue to put on a show the way they have? And Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler's kind of been all over the field like we all thought he would be, and how they match up with that Raiders defense.
Omar, you've had your pulse on this division for quite some time. Is it surprising to you to see a 3-0 Broncos team, a 3-0 Raiders team, a 2-1 Chargers team with a win over Kansas City, And then Patrick Mahomes and company at 1-2.
Yeah, incredibly surprising. In fact, I had to ask our researchers when the last time the Chiefs were in last place all by themselves. And you have to go back to week 6 of 2015 when they were 1-5. And now they rattled off 10 straight wins to end the season. And they ended up 11-5. They made the playoffs and all that. And a couple years more of Alex Smith at the helm, and then passing the torch to Patrick Mahomes. But since then, they've dominated the division. There has not been a more dominant intra-division team than Kansas City, obviously winning the AFC West 5 straight seasons. And for them to be in last place like that is certainly shocking. Now, I don't expect them to stay there. And I think when you talk about the strength of the division as a whole, I think all 4 teams are going to contend for the playoffs throughout the season. And I think all 4 of the teams that have shown how competitive they can be, I think they're all doing so in a sustainable style. So I think it'll be a race, all season long, and certainly the AFC West, matching the NFC West. When we talked about, the top divisions in football, I think NFC West was the sort of runaway preseason winner, and they've lived up to the hype. They have 9 collective wins in that division, but AFC West right there with them in the win column for the division. And I think this is just going to be a fun race to watch all season long.
Chargers 1-0 in the AFC West for the first time since 2014. And I said this earlier in the week, it's one thing to beat the Chiefs, but it doesn't mean as much if you follow up and lose to the Raiders. This is such a critical stretch for the Chargers. You can go 2-0 in the division. And of course, last year they won the last 3 in the AFC West, but it didn't mean anything. So to go Chiefs, Raiders, and then you have the Browns and the Ravens before a bye. I mean, talk about a critical stretch here, especially Monday night against the Raiders.
Yeah, I think that's I think when you look back, at the Chargers is stacking these wins together, and obviously outside of the 2018 season, which, they were competitive, the entire year. I think that's been one of the, ways you can pinpoint their lack of success, because they've had, talented players, obviously with Phillip Rivers being the quarterback there for, forever. And then Justin Herbert taking over. They've had, great quarterbacks. They've had competitive teams. Obviously we know the injury story, but even despite all those injuries, they've had big wins, but it's stacking them together and playing consistent. And I think that's something they'll have an opportunity to show that they've sort of grown in that department this particular week, coming off that huge Kansas City win and then following it up with an incredible divisional matchup. And I think that's the same thing that can be said for the Raiders. I think, watching the Raiders over these last, 20 years, since they went to the Super Bowl, they've had a lot of bad football, and all of their teams haven't been, terrible. But again, it's that lack of sustainability, having that huge road win, when they would pull them off and then falling flat on their face the next week at home versus a team that's under 500. And so I think both of these teams, I think want to prove that they can put consistent football together. And that's the key to any contender in the NFL. We all know how talented each team is. They all have good players, but can they put it together in back-to-back weeks? And as the weeks turn into months, can they remain competitive? And I think, this Monday will go a long ways in proving, which of these teams can sustain that long term.
And Omar, a lot of playmakers for these quarterbacks on both sides. Derek Carr has thrown the ball to 4 different receivers who have over 200 receiving yards. When you talk about Renfro, Ruggs, Waller, and Edwards, and then just the elite play that Justin Herbert is getting from Keenan Allen, who we know Keenan Allen is going to show up each and every week. But the emergence of Mike Williams all over the field this year, I mean, it's been something to watch. 4 touchdowns already, a career high 122 receiving yards against the Chiefs. If both of those guys can play at that level with Justin Herbert at the controls, Chargers could be in really good shape moving forward.
Oh, yeah. I think this is what Tom Telesco envisioned, right? When they drafted Mike Williams so high in the first round a few years ago. And it seems like he's healthy now, putting it all together and again, bringing that consistency. And I think, he's gotten most of the attention because of, his scoring prowess. You mentioned the 4 touchdowns, but Keenan Allen's numbers are right there, just has that 1 touchdown. Maybe it hasn't gotten as much attention, but, they're neck and neck in terms of production. And you mentioned the Raiders. on their side of the ball, the 4 200-yard receivers. No other team has more than 2 receivers in that department. It just kind of shows how Derek Carr has established that confidence in, Ruggs and Edwards, the guys that they're really counting on to step up this year. Obviously, internally, they had confidence that they would, but until they show it on the field, you still didn't know. And it was a big risk for letting Nelson Aguilar walk in free agency. But, they knew that either Edwards or Ruggs would have to step up, and certainly they have. And then you have Darren Waller, who the offense goes through him, and the Raiders feel like he can be not just one of the best tight ends in football, but one of, if not the best player in football. So it'll all be on display, and I like guys like Jarrett Cook, who's still making plays, and had a big catch there in Kansas City. And we mentioned Austin Eckler, one of the few players, I think maybe one of 2 players that have had so far this season, 100 yards rushing, 100 yards receiving, and touchdowns in both varieties. So I expect nothing but fireworks. I think it's going to be one of those, like these 2 teams have played, the last couple of years, just one of those come down to the wire and maybe controversy with a call or any of the number of the ways dramatically these 2 teams have finished over the years. But it sure is exciting, and sets the stage for not only a competitive game, very meaningful, but an exciting and entertaining game as well.
Omar, just 2 quick ones for you. Your overall thoughts on Brandon Staley, the way he's coached these first 3 weeks. He's got this confidence that Money and I were just talking about, where it's very matter of fact, and the guys are buying in, and it's very early, right? But you're starting to see some of the things that he's talked about this offseason really kind of paying off on the football field.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, obviously Brandon Staley gets a lot of credit for, his defensive mind and kind of what he brings to the game schematically and X's and O's. But I think what you're seeing, and I appreciate how the Chargers and a number of other teams, they've been putting the coach's post-game speech online, and you can see just how he commands a room, and he's just his authentic self, that, he's not doing too much. He's not putting on a show, but you can see some of his personality and why he's been able to connect with his players, and not just, the defensive players that he works with on a daily basis, but the whole team, the offense as well. And I think there was no question on whether he had the X's and O's acumen, to lead an organization, but can he connect with all the different personalities? And I think emphatically he's showing that he can, and he has, led that team so far, and they're following, that personality on the field as well.
Omar, what do you think is going to decide this one based on what we've seen from both of these teams the first 3 weeks? Obviously, the quarterbacks tell the story, but both defenses playing good. Chargers been pretty opportunistic on defense, and the Raiders offensively, they've taken care of the football for the most part, save for that pick 6 last week against the Dolphins. Yeah,
I think it is turnovers. We'll tell this story. I think both of these teams, have the offensive firepower we mentioned. I think the defenses are going to do their thing and are both capable in their own right to controlling a game. So I think it's, who can protect the football, who has more possessions, because of that. I think, that's, in covering the Raiders leading up to the season, they spoke a lot about, having just extra possessions and not just off turnovers, but what an improved defense would do for that statistic as well. If they can get their defense to get teams off the field after 3rd down a little bit more and get the ball in the hands of their offense, things of that nature. So, ball possession, turnovers, which team has the ball last, all of that, I think, will come into play in this game and ultimately decide it.
And after the game, you got to go check out Omar on NFL Network. Tell everybody what's going on after the game and what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so I'll be hosting our Total Access, post-game coverage of Monday Night Football on NFL Network with Andrew Hawkins and Adam Rank. And like I mentioned, first half, we're going to watch it in the stadium. It'll be my first time working in our new studios right across the street from SoFi Stadium while a game is going on. So I'm excited to see the atmosphere, not just inside SoFi, but, the tailgating and the surrounding atmosphere and kind of walking up to the stadium and and seeing all the fans. I can't wait, to experience it all. And then again, you can watch our coverage on NFL Network right after the game.
Can't wait to see you, man. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the well wishes. I told Money this too. It's a girl dad podcast. We got you, we got Money, now we got myself. So I'm thrilled to have you on here as we get ready for Chargers Raiders.
Thank you, Chris. And we're all at different stages, right? I think Money's got teenagers. I've got little kids. You've got babies. So, we're all right there, different stages of that girl dad club for sure.
And like you said, gray hair probably coming soon. Check in with me around week 8, week 9, maybe.
All right. I look forward to it, Chris.
All right, bud. Thanks so much. All right, let's bring him in, Money. The voice of Monday Night Football, Steve Levy. And Steve, when you look at the schedule in May, sometimes you don't really know how it's going to shake out. This one, an early treat at SoFi Stadium with actually fans in the stands this time.
It's no question. And that might be the first few words out of my mouth on Monday night as well. So, you just didn't know. And I would say more question marks about the Raiders than the Chargers coming into the season. And then we get them on opening night, right? They win in overtime. And last week, they had another win in overtime for the Raiders. So I think we thought more highly of the Chargers coming into the season. And here the Raiders are 3-0. But I'm a guy who really likes to wait at least a month into the season. I'm not sold on the Broncos being the perfect team. I'm not sold on the Chiefs being a last place team either. You know what I mean? So, but the division is fascinating. And this is like a gift. This was sort of handed to us, and it should be a lot of fun on Monday night.
Steve, would love to go back to last year and, Justin Herbert's debut on Monday Night Football, just a couple weeks after we got him, coming off the bench, not knowing he was going to get that start against Kansas City, and just what your impressions were of him considering how that game played out.
Yeah, we sort of the coming out party. I think it was 4 touchdown passes, right? He just looked so cool and so calm, really up against it, right? I mean, that's Drew Brees on the other side. You know what I mean? And he's trading scores with Drew Brees, and they're going up and down the field. And if not for my memory's a little fuzzy, but as I recall, it was a great defensive play by the Raiders. Stopped the Chargers about a couple of inches on a 4th down, and that's where the game ended. If they get another yard there, no one would have been surprised if Herbert leads them down and they score again and win the game in overtime. So that was a fabulous game. I will say, in fairness, that young Justin did benefit from the fact the Superdome was eerily quiet and empty. Yes. Right? That's a different animal, that place, when it's rocking on a primetime game.
And Steve, that's what's so funny is that a lot of people said, all right, well, Justin, he didn't do it in front of these deafening crowds like the Superdome. But last Sunday, Arrowhead, you'd be hard-pressed to find a place more ruckus than that. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. You outdueled Patrick Mahomes with a 125 passer rating. What did you make of that game and just how it shook out? It's very rare for a team to have a +4 turnover differential and have it be that close at the end.
So yeah, I think it's a league, as you guys know, of sort of baby steps, right? So maybe Herbert doesn't do that a year ago, but now he's ready for it, right? And so full season OTAs, the full experience of last year, not really preseason action, but being in camp, a real camp, and then maybe you're ready to go. And listen, it speaks also to the other talent around him, I think. And Coach Staley. Coach Staley's got some confidence. There was some gutty play calls, some gutty decision making down the stretch. But I think we're starting to see it come together, right? The head coach and the quarterback in step, in agreement. How do you want to handle this? And Staley's showing confidence, not just in his quarterback, but in the entire offense. They can make a play there. What was that? 4th and 9 after the penalty, pushed it back. We were shocked they didn't kick the field goal in the first place. Like, it was a wild game. But the Chargers have always been to me a fun team, right? Like, it's the uniforms, it's the high scoring, it's the offense, it's the old AFL, the old AFC, that kind of thing. And that's what makes this cool with the Raiders too. But the Chargers are one of the stories of the league early on. And that's Herbert, and that's Staley too. We wouldn't spend a lot of time telling people about him because we had him when he's working for the Rams there. And we told his story, it was 5 years ago then, maybe it's 6 years ago now. He's running a D3 defense, right? And I mean, it's a meteoric rise to where he has come from to this point, and full marks to him for getting there.
I'd love, Steve, to go back to what you started with the Raiders, because you have seen them. And, it's Raider week, and, there are, I don't know how many other teams have as much ill will toward another franchise than we do when it's Raider week with the Chargers. But it's hard to figure out, right? Kind of what they are. It seemed like, Villanueva felt out of place. That was a mess for him in that game against Baltimore. It was a turnover late that sort of helped them get that victory. Yep. Like, where are you at? Do you feel, I know you said you want to wait a month, but just your perception of the Raiders and if they're really a 3-0 top of the division type of team.
So I would say, based on last season, it was misleading because the offense was really good last season. I mean, really good. They're a top 10 offense last year, and that gets lost in all the losses, really. But that's just because they were giving up, massive chunks, just getting gashed all over the place, I think, on defense. So I think they are still figuring things out on defense. They did make some offseason acquisitions. The Chargers are well aware of some free agent signings for the Raiders. Yeah. That's a big spot. No need to go there. So I think they've made improvements on defense, and that's really the key. If the offense can stay where it was from a season ago, and it's only going to get better, by the way, but if the offense can stay where it was, it's the defense can pick it up. Even a little makes them a much better team overall. And if the defense can take some major strides, well, then you're talking about the potential for a playoff team. Darren Waller's been an unbelievable star in this league, underrated for a long, long time, right behind Kelsey and Kittle, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of defense. Unbelievable mismatch. You see this guy in practice, the size he has, the speed, the hands, and then you see it on Sunday. He's just a great story. And Henry Ruggs has sort of figured it out a little bit all of a sudden, So he's done a nice job too. And then all of a sudden, late in that game, in our first game, and the kid hadn't done anything. Brian Edwards, I want to get his name right. He hadn't done anything in the game, and he made 4 catches in the last 2 minutes of the fourth and in overtime. And so he had a nice game last week as well. So all of a sudden, Derek Carr, who is extremely underrated and underappreciated in the league, has some real weapons to deal with. And even Josh Jacobs has started practicing again this week. So we'll see what the Raiders look like. But again, the offense has already been really good. I think that was lost in the fact that defense was so porous.
Steve, it's a big test for the Chargers defense, and number 33, Derwin James, is back on the field. I know you share a booth with a former safety. When you see what Derwin is capable of with Joey Bosa on the field, a lot of star power on that defense. Just your early impressions of what he's been able to do, and really just this Brandon Staley defense in general, just limiting the Chiefs, especially in that first half. And, Money and I talked about just the fact that the Cowboys had 17 points before that game-winning field goal. I mean, Washington wasn't able to do much against this defense.
Yeah, it was a bad illegal shift, right? That illegal shift is almost cost the Chargers a couple of times. I mean, Staley can't wait for us to ask him about that again, right? So, the Chargers, could make the argument the Chargers should be a perfect team too at this point. I think with James and Bosa, obviously great talent. We saw James in college, and you could just see he was just a different guy. But he falls in line with Bosa in, this great talent, superstar potential, and can they stay healthy, right? And I know Bosa's dealing with some stuff again, and we talked about it on our call this week, having to sort of it's just a terrible nurse him, through each week to get him to Sunday or Monday. But that's the case. These guys are so valuable on game days. Can you get them through the week and through the long season, and with the extra game this season? I think that's the only question really for both James and Bosa. If they can stay healthy, there's no question they are defensive superstars around the league. And the league needs more defensive stars, right? We're all about the offense. Everybody knows Aaron Donald's name, right? I'm trying to think, other Jalen Ramsey, those kind of defensive stars. There aren't that many household name defensive stars. And I think obviously both Bosas have that opportunity. Derwin James, just a stud back there. Yeah, I'll have to calm Riddick down for sure this week. He won't stop talking about safety play, too high shell, and all that stuff. It's going to be out of control. Yeah.
Steve, it's always fun when we go on the road and you see the fans make the trip, and you see the powder blue. It was crazy in Washington. It's the most I've ever seen of Charger fans in a stadium. It was like 25% Charger fans. So as someone who has the great blessing of a job that you get to go to all these different stadiums, if you were to recommend, hey, the Chargers are playing in this town and this stadium, you got to make the trip. What would be maybe one or two of those stadiums?
I'll give you this. And so I think I've been every place now. My 3 favorite NFL experiences, and I've only been one as a fan, but the other 2 as a broadcaster, being on the field, post-game, Sports Center, and in no particular order, Green Bay, Seattle, Kansas City. Those would be my 3. I feel like they're kind of obvious, but that's really how I feel. They are destinations. And I do think, despite the unbelievable fan base in those towns, especially Green Bay, they get a lot of road fans because everybody wants to go to Lambeau Field, right? And you wait for your team to rotate through, is it every 6 years based on the division play, right, and schedule. And I think Vegas is going to be like that. I know there's talk with the Chargers. This is going to be like a Raiders home game. But the Raiders have lived through that too. Just last week, Gruden was saying he heard way too many Miami Dolphin fans. And that's a real concern in Las Vegas. That's a destination place, right? All the fellas, where you want to go? Hey, our team's in Vegas.
Vegas.
Let's go have a 5-day weekend in Vegas. I mean, who wouldn't sign up for that, right? So I get it. It's an issue. But for fans out there, I would say if you have a chance, go to Green Bay, Seattle, Kansas City. See how they do it there. It's really special.
Steve, we'll get you out of here on this. SoFi Stadium last year, I think you guys did Rams-Bears, and it was empty. Just what do you expect Monday night, and how cool is it to have a venue like SoFi Stadium, a part of the NFL now, Super Bowl? It's going to be a special night on Monday.
No, we're looking forward to it, and I'm really interested to see if the noise stays in the building, right? So I know it's going to be full. I think the thing that fans don't really get, and television has tried to show it, there are no walls, right? The sides are open, which makes it so unique and so cool. I'm really interested to see how loud that stadium gets. And we talked when we were in there for the Rams game last year, and Sean McVay said he couldn't believe how quiet it was. We thought it was, again, among all the empty stadiums, right? They're all empty, but SoFi seemed to be the quietest. It was really weird to hear the public address announcer, whatever music they were playing, but the players really needed that energy. And I get the sense that energy boost will not be necessary come Monday night. So hopefully traffic won't be an issue. 5 o'clock game I hear in Southern California.
Oh yeah, it will. Oh yeah, I'll
Steve,
tell you,
it's gonna be an issue.
It's funny. Going back to last year, one of the strangest moments I've ever been involved with in a football game is week 2. The first game at SoFi, no fans, and Harrison Butker hits that 58-yard field goal to give the Chiefs the win in overtime. And I am clear across where we're doing our broadcast across from where the Kansas City owners box is, and I can hear the Hunt family screaming cheers 2 floors higher and at least 500 yards away. Right. That's how quiet it was in that place. It's crazy.
I would honestly, last year, guys, I have a kind of loud voice. So I tend to project. And I was concerned that the players were going to hear me scream touchdown. Because we're at the 50 in a lot of places and we're not that far up. Right. And I can see these guys, hey, Levy, shut up. We're trying to play it. That was a bit of a concern for me too, but hey, everything is so much better. I know we're not all the way back with everything, but things are already so much better around the NFL. It's great to see the smiles on people's faces when they're not wearing masks. And, we did a little piece this past week on all the people working at the stadium, right? And we don't think about them, right? The concession workers, security, all those types of people who make every fan's experience enjoyable, right? Make it a good time. You need those people too. And so it's great to see them getting back to work and them getting paid. And just another step towards a little more normalcy would be great.
Yeah, and hey, treat
Steve,
them well. Treat those people well. That's important for the fans. Those people, we need them. We want them to be excited to go to work. So if they're asking you to do something, please, recognize they're just doing their jobs and be appreciative that they're there helping us out.
Tip them an extra $1 or $2 if you can, right?
There you go. Exactly.
1,000%. Steve, I can guarantee you they will not hear you say touchdown on Monday night. we're looking forward to it. It's a special night. So glad you're a part of it, man, and always appreciate your time. Thanks again.
Yeah, hey, I'm anticipating screaming touchdown an awful lot. Let's have a high scoring game on Monday night. Thanks for having me, and you guys stay healthy and safe. We'll see you out there.
All right, thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. And that's going to do it for us. A big thanks to Steve Levy and Omar Ruiz for joining me and Money this week. Be sure to download and subscribe to the Chargers Podcast Network, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on YouTube, the official Chargers YouTube channel, full video episodes each and every week. You can also get that on the Chargers app and chargers.com. Have a great weekend. We look forward to seeing you for Monday Night Football. Until next time, I'm Chris Hayre.